Hi, my name is Uli and I'm a year 12 student studying in the UK, hoping to apply to medicine. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how I got all 8s and 9s in my GCSEs. I obviously didn't sit the GCSEs because I'm currently in year 12, so when it was my GCSEs year, I got my predicted grades. But to be quite fair, I worked a lot to get the grades, and I think that if I actually sat the GCSEs, I would have gotten similar results or even better. So I'm gonna leave stamps for every single subject somewhere on the screen so that you guys can skip around, and timestamps in the description, and so you don't have to watch the entire video because I know that you guys have to revise. I know that you guys have the assessments, or if you're in year 10 and you're doing it next year, then good luck, guys. But before we get into the actual subjects, I just want to say that first of all, you really have to make sure that you actually want the 9s. Like, do you really want the 9s, or are you just conforming to societal standards of getting all 9s? And the next thing is you have to understand all of the information. Like, if you don't understand something, there's no way you're gonna remember it. Like, it's just gonna be impossible. We learned it in psychology. A way for a memory to go from short-term memory, which is like when you just remember it, into long-term memory is understanding the meaning of it. So if you don't understand something, then good luck getting it into your long-term memory, honestly. So first I'm going to talk about sciences and maths and psychology. So I took biology, chemistry, math, physics for the math, and psychology. These are I got 9s in all of them. So for biology, chemistry, and physics, these are the subjects that I'm naturally better at. Like, I was just born a more scientific person. So sciences were never really hard for me, but that doesn't mean that I didn't revise for them. What I did was I wrote out all of my notes on these little cue cards that I don't have with me right now. They're currently in school, but I'll post a screenshot of what they look like because I scanned them all in so that I can send them to people. These are not cue cards, because a cue card is when you have a question on one side and then an answer on the other side. But I never really got into that, so I just wrote out notes, but on the cards, just because I like the feeling of cards. And then I used to have these like little booklets for every single topic, and one booklet would be one topic, and I would make these notes right before a topic test. The key again is to understand all of the information that you're writing. I also highlighted the key words because in science, these key words are really important, particularly for biology. So write in different colors, draw diagrams, make them pretty. Like, if you're making notes, you might as well make them to the best of your ability. And after you've done your notes right before the exam, you do practice questions. The teachers gave it to us, but if the teachers didn't give it to you, then you can just find it online, do them timed, so in timed conditions without the notes, and then mark them and then put them in your notes. Any things that you got wrong. It worked really well for GCSEs and it's working really well for A-levels. So yeah. Now onto English literature and English language. These are the subjects that I'm naturally worse at just because I don't really like writing essays, and English isn't my first language. So I did have a lot of work to do, and I bumped up my grade, particularly for English literature, from a 6 to a 9. This subject was the one that I actively worked a lot at. I actively did a lot of practice. So I actively understand it really well. So that's why this one I can give a lot of advice on this one. So first of all, if you look at the question, you will see that it's either a theme or a character. And if you look at all of the past questions, you can see what are the themes and the characters that come up the most. And just make essay plans for these themes and characters. Ask your teachers to mark these essay plans. And what I mean by essay plan is just introduction, 3 main arguments, and conclusion. The 3 arguments have to be slightly different. You kind of vaguely know what you're going to talk about. A couple of quotes for each argument. That's an essay plan. So once your teacher marks it, you just memorize these. I did like, I don't know, 7 to 10 for every book, so that wouldn't actually be that much. And it's the same for poetry. If you're lucky in the exam and you get that exact theme or character, then you can just write out your essay plan. If you're not so lucky and you don't get exact that one, you can just use the points from your 10 essay plans to make an essay for the one that you get in the exam, because it's really difficult just memorizing 100 random quotes. But if you put them and structure them into essay plans, it's going to be so much easier. There's also a certain structure that you follow when you write English language and English literature essay. Once I started following this structure, it started getting better and better, and essentially it's just introduction, 3 points, conclusion. And the way you write the paragraph, the structure goes something like this. So you write out the main point, then you put a little bit of the explanation, like what you mean by the point. Then you put a quote that directly supports that point, not a random quote. It has to somehow support the point. Then you explain how the quote supports the point, and a little bit of more critical analysis, which is like you basically just have to link things together and write it really, really detailed. And then, really important, link back to the question. It is so important that everything that you write has to be about the theme in the question. And the best way that you can do it is literally just practicing. I gave those practice essays to read to my teacher, and she read read them and she was like, okay, so you add a little bit here and you take away a little bit here. This is how I improve. Like I take her points into consideration. I write a new essay and you just keep doing that. And eventually you start getting 8s and 9s for your essays.
Hey guys, Editing Uli here. I just wanted to say that this is the structure that we used in school. It's called the petal structure. And then there's an example of a paragraph written using the petal structure. So you can just pause the video and have a look, because I think that the paragraph explains how you write it really well.
Also, a tip would be using mark schemes for past questions. So if you go to past questions and you just like explain the role of fate or the Friar Lawrence or Romeo and Juliet, you can look at mark schemes and it just says possible points or something like that, and that gives you possible points that you could mention, and you just take these points and use them in your essay plan. Like sometimes you don't even have to come up with the points, you just take them from the mark scheme. That's what I did for English literature and English language. Okay, next, history. So for history, it's even more about exam technique than it is for content. Like I never actually learned the content and I still don't really know it. So you don't need to know all of the detailed dates and everyone's names and exactly what happened. Of course you do, like if it asks you a question about some kind of passage and you don't know what passage that is, then like that's a problem. But exam technique is so important in this. I have a whole document of all of the exam technique for every single question, so I can go through it if you guys need it. I don't know. You also really have to do practice questions, because in history the time is so tight. You literally look at the question, you immediately write. Like you don't have time to plan stuff. It's that rush. If you know that this is 16 marks, so that means that you get 24 minutes for it, because I think it's like 1 mark is 1.5 minutes. If you've spent 20 minutes already and you've only done 2 arguments and you still have 1 more argument and a conclusion, then stop thinking about these arguments. Quickly write something, write a conclusion, then move on in 24 minutes, because otherwise you're just gonna run out of time. And then if you have any left at the end, then come back and redo your conclusion or something. And I think what the teachers really, like what the examiners really want from you is that critical analysis, and you really don't need, like you don't need as much knowledge as you think you do to be critical about something. Like, I don't know, Hitler was a really good public speaker, which is why he was able to indoctrinate people and which is why he was able to capture the minds of innocent people. But this was not the main reason why Hitler was able to succeed, because the German people already felt betrayed by the Treaty of Versailles and everything that was happening before, and how the rest of Europe was just targeting German people. And a really random tip with history that my history teacher told us, and then I used the trick and that he didn't even realize. If you check any of the mark schemes, they say that they want like details, like you want knowledge, like actual facts. It can be hard to remember. You don't have to know things like how much percentage of people in Germany had a radio in 1937. You could make that up. It is so easy to make it up. Trust me, these history people that are going to be marking your essays, they're not going to know all of the percentage. So I actually made up quite a lot of stuff in my essays. Like I would just be like, oh yeah, 70% of the population had a radio installed in their home in 1937, which meant that Hitler really used media to indoctrinate people and be there, and they would be always listening to the radio while they're doing things. So the Hitler ideologies would be in the subconscious minds. You make it up. You don't have to. Like just make it sound realistic and it's all good. They're not gonna know. And statistics is all about how you count them anyways, and no one is gonna accurately tell you how much of the people had a radio back in 1937, so you could just make it up. Okay, we only have Spanish and drama left. Spanish. Languages is something that I'm naturally good at it, and because I learned English as my second language, it's like the more languages you learn, the easier it becomes. So Spanish was easier for me because I already learned English, and Spanish is quite similar to Russian. In this one, you can't really revise in advance. Like if you have an exam tomorrow, then it can be quite tough because you really have to work throughout the years. But the best way I found to get a better grade is to talk in Spanish. That helps with listening because you hear other people speak. It helps with writing and reading because you understand Spanish and you come up with stuff faster. And that 100% helps with orals, because for the orals you have to, it's like a 10-minute conversation. So I wrote out all of the answers and I had to memorize them. You don't have to do that if you know how to speak. I went from not being able to say anything except for the weather is nice today, and now every single week I have a 25-minute conversation with a Spanish teacher one-to-one about like the most random topics. Like I'm not taking anything to do with Spanish, but I really want to keep it going, and I found that I spent 5 times less time than I normally do in Spanish, but my progress is so much bigger because just find a person who can speak Spanish with you and speak with them, and it's just gonna make your Spanish so much better. And I'm sure the same works with French and German. A tip that I would give is learn the key phrases that can like give you the top marks. Things like si tuviera que dar una opinión diría que. That means if I had to give an opinion, I would say. And you probably haven't heard of this, like these tenses, and you don't have to know them, but it's a nice phrase. So instead of saying en mi opinión, which means in my opinion, you can just say si tuviera que dar una opinión diría que. Like, that's better to say. Or cuando era joven, you know, when I was young, and then you could use a nice past tense. And then finally, drama. A really big part of drama is the actual performance that you can't really, it's kind of hard to help you. Like, just listen to what your teachers tell you, I guess. But I'm gonna talk about the essays that you have to write. So the essays, there is a formula that, again, you have to, like, there's no way for me to get it across to you. You just kind of get it and then you start writing like that, reading answers to past papers, because it kind of gives you points that you could expand on. For live theater, which is like a production that you saw and you have to answer a couple of questions, one question or 2 questions on it. Again, write essay plans. If they ask you about props and set, then you have an essay plan about props and set. And I think in drama, detail is so key. Like, detail and symbolism are your 2 best friends if you're doing drama GCSE. Like, you make sure that every single thing is expanded on and explained. Like, I remember when I was doing these costumes, like, you just like describe a costume for, I don't know, this character. And instead of saying she had red shoes, you really say that, like, instead of just red shoes symbolize anger, you go, her shoes were a bright crimson color with a glossy finish, and they were very well taken care of with, like, your shoelaces were really white. And this suggests that she wanted to attract attention from her peers to herself, which is why her shoes were glossy, because it catches attention more than if they were matte. But she also knew that people are going to be looking at her, so she took really good care of herself. And this suggests that she is a very intelligent character, because she knows how to use her beauty to her advantage and how to get what she wants from other people using her beauty. You can literally make anything up about red shoes. I don't know, blood, anger, happiness, blush, anything, you can make it up. Literally half of my GCSEs is BS, I'm not even joking. So these are all the subjects that I did. Overall, good luck with your assessments, good luck with your GCSEs, whether you're doing them this year or next year or never. I don't know why you're watching this if you're not doing your GCSEs. You can follow my Instagram if you want, even though I don't really post anything on there. You can like this video and comment for the YouTube algorithm so more people can see these tips on GCSEs and more people can do better in these very difficult times. And I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.